dramatic fashion in the wee hours Friday. Along with every one of the Senate's Democrats, 3 Republican senators rejected the so-called skinny repeal. Much of the media applauded onto the surprise nay vote of Senator John McCain. But the other 2 Republicans, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, arguably had a tougher time of it, voting their consciences despite threats from fellow lawmakers and the administration. And don't forget the activists and ordinary citizens who fought for the right to their health care. They put it all on the line and won, at least for now. Kate and Dawson is back with me, and joining me now is Karine Jean-Pierre, national spokesperson for MoveOn.org, and Perry Bacon Jr. of 538.com. And Perry, you know, this was a week when we got, the media sort of finally got its wish to see the John McCain maverick of legend emerge and take down the Obamacare repeal. But are people sort of missing the plot just a little bit? Because John McCain and Lisa Murkowski very specifically did not say that they opposed repealing and replacing Obamacare. They opposed the way that Mitch McConnell is running the Senate, right?
Well, in some ways, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, you had three bills. You had, we'll call it repeal and delay, repeal and replace, and then whatever, you know, we call it skinny repeal, which was actually not very skinny. But I think in some ways the policy in all 3 of these ideas was rejected. Like in Nevada's Dean Heller, for example, he voted for the final bill, but he kept saying no to the first 2, and that made it harder to pass anything. So I do think there was a part of it, particularly with McCain. If you saw McCain's comments afterward, they were very focused on the process. The process was bad. I didn't like the process. But there were a lot of other members who were unhappy with the policy, and they made it hard for McConnell to pass anything. You had this weird thing at the end where basically Lindsey Graham, Ron Johnson, and others were saying, I'll vote for this bill, but I hate this version too. And the House has the changes. So there was an underlying policy problem throughout here, and I think that's important as well.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. But I think what you two really did see, you know, in terms of the policy, Karine, people who had the most on the line in terms of the Medicaid expansion, people like, Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia and Dean Heller in Nevada, both of whom have large Medicaid populations in their states, wound up voting for the bill, right? They wound up actually going along with it. And then here are the statements from Collins and Murkowski, who were against the bill from the very beginning. They were the 2 holdouts from the very beginning. First of all, Susan Collins. She said the Democrats made a big mistake when they passed the ACA without a single Republican vote. I don't want to see Republicans make the same mistake. The ACA is flawed and in portions of the country in near collapse. Rather than engaging in partisan exercises, Republicans and Democrats should work together to address these very serious problems. Now, you know, putting aside the fact that Republicans decided as a strategy not to vote for to give any votes to Affordable Care Act, so it's weird blaming them for non-bipartisanship. But anyway, let's go on to Lisa Murkowski. This is her official statement on Friday. I voted no on the health care proposal last night because both sides must do better on process and substance. The Affordable Care Act remains a flawed law that I am committed to reforming with a structure that works better for all Americans. But to do that, the Senate must fully devote itself to an effort to improve the healthcare system in this country. And last but not least, let's listen to a little bit of John McCain. And this was John McCain on Tuesday talking about his lack of support for the bill.
Why don't we try the old way of legislating in the Senate? The way our rules and customs encourage us to act. If this process ends in failure, which seems likely, then let's return to regular order.
So, Karine, let's just say that the Mitch McConnell, by some miracle, takes up the Republicans, the recalcitrant Republicans on that and says, okay, I failed at trying to force this through with my, 50 votes plus the vice president. Let's go into regular order and let's re-debate repealing and replacing or fixing or whatever you want to call it, adjusting the Affordable Care Act. How will the activist community respond to Democrats who participated in that process?
Look, I think that this is definitely a zombie bill, and it will probably its ugly head, and we're going to have to, the activists will have to take that bill and put it back into the zombie grave. Absolutely, and that's going to have to happen. And we hope that Democrats on the Senate will listen to us and make sure that whatever is happening, whatever Mitch McConnell does, it doesn't take away health care from millions of people. Also, one thing I wanted to point out is that 2 years ago, McCain and Murkowski actually voted to repeal health care. I think what happened now is Obamacare became popular. And people did not want their health care being taken away from them. And people stood up. American people, activists stood up, and they said, took to the streets, made phone calls, and said, this is not going to happen, and you're not going to repeal Obamacare. But look, if we go back 6 months ago, this was supposed to be an easy one for Republicans. On day one, Donald Trump said himself, I'm ready, I have a pen to sign a bill to repeal Obamacare. This was not supposed to happen for Republicans, but it did because it was just unpopular what they were trying to do. Every bill that they put forth was unpopular, and people wanted to have health care. Kicking 20 million people off of their health care was not a popular thing. But I have to say, Joe, I think the thing that is the most concerning right now is Donald Trump will try to undermine the health care, Obamacare. He started doing that on day one when he signed an executive order asking all of his agencies to do whatever they can to dismantle Obamacare, and that is the concern that we have right now. He took, that same day, he took an oath to uphold the laws of the land, and here he was trying to undermine Obamacare right at the go. So we have to really be zero in on that, because he is going to try to dismantle it, defund it, bleed Obamacare.
That would be crazy, Kate Dawson. You do politics for a living. I mean, if he were to collapse the non-group market by refusing to fund people's subsidies, well, I mean, that Republicans would own that. That's insane. But I want to get you to comment both on that as a strategy, you know, trying to basically let the non-group market collapse by defunding it, but also this strategy of going after red state senators whose votes you need. This extraordinary thing that happened where the Secretary of the Interior went after and contacted the 2 senators from Alaska, including Lisa Murkowski, who they knew was on the fence, and essentially threatening the economy of Alaska. Ryan Zinke reaching out to these senators and essentially saying, I'm not going to go into the details, but I fear the strong economic growth, pro-energy, pro-mining, pro-jobs, and personnel from Alaska who are part of these policies are going to stop going after. How was that wise, Caton? And how do red state voters react to the fact that their president, their guy, would attack their state's economy to bully their senator?
Let me tell you what little bit I know about Alaska and Lisa. When you go to attack those people, you better take 2 sandwiches, because she's going to eat the first one for lunch and then maybe give you the second one back. And not only that, since when did an administration decide to do that kind of threat? I mean, we're pretty good at that. We used to be good at it, where at least it was quiet and we'd do it on a napkin instead of wide open and get caught. Isn't that right, Perry? I mean, so when did we start doing that? I mean, that's rookie. So let me come back to the politics of health care. There were no winners this week. None. You're either on the preserve and protect side or on the replace and repeal side. That's how the public's seeing it. The failure, and when it does collapse, if nothing's done, you know, they might think they can blame it on President Obama and his team. They are laughing buckets of tears right now over this, because we now own it, because we're in charge. The Republicans are in charge of this, and that's how the voter sees it. And what happens when you have these type of calamities is you have voter apathy. The question is, will the excitement be on the preserve and Obamacare, or on the still repeal, replace, and fix? I don't know. All I've always told you is, if you own health care, you're probably going to lose at the ballot box. I just don't know who owns it right now.
Well, and by the way, the idea of collapse is about the non-group market again, people. You're talking about the very people Republicans got to pull over to Donald Trump. You're talking about small business owners. You're talking about individuals who buy in the non-group market. That is the exchanges that are having problems. It's not the Medicaid side. It's the same people Republicans go after as voters. And let me really quickly end with Perry Bacon Jr. Donald Trump had a tweet storm this morning where he was essentially trying to goad Mitch McConnell to essentially end the filibuster in the Senate, get rid of the 60-vote threshold. Is that ever going to happen? And how crazy is that as an ask?
It's a crazy ass. Mitch McConnell has told him not to do it. I think McConnell's ex-chief of staff was on Twitter saying, where is the idea coming from? I thought there was new leadership at the White House. And that's not an idea that's going to pass. I mean, one thing to think about, though, John McCain talked about all week long, we need to have a more bipartisan process here. He kept saying that. I wonder if he's being naive or he misunderstands what's going on here. The Republicans are not obsessed with fixing health care. This is a drive to repeal something Obama did. And so the idea that they're going to do it in a bipartisan way, it's impossible, because any Democrat who likes the proposal means it doesn't fill its goal for Republicans, which is to sort of attack something Obama did.
Yeah. Politics is fascinating. Caden and Karine will be back. PBJ, Perry Bacon Jr., thank you. We'll have you back on again soon.
Joy.
And coming up in our next hour, thank you. Trump encourages police